I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we will take the roll call. Okay. Well, I was just thinking about that, and I was thinking Mr. Brown must be doing whatever Justin's doing. Have you seen that? Like, he's all. Must be a program ECUA offers.
Let's get Gabe.
Federal laws about what you all do.
Oh, that's funny. Looking good, Gabe.
Okay, Mr. Gaines, Miss Ritz, Mr. Brown, Miss Benson, Dr. Walker, Mr. Williams,
Here.
Chairman Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Punko,
Here.
Mr. Perkins, Miss Cromartie,
Here.
and Mr. Kirschner.
Here.
Great.
Thank you. We move now to the invocation and pledge, and Dr. Walker is going to do that for us, so if you would please stand.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, as we meet today as servants of people of this community, this county, let us also serve them in such a way we serve you. We pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. We move now to the adoption of the agenda. I am going to add two things under unfinished business, the MRF, and under new business, under one thing, unfinished business, the MRF, two things under new business. One is auto selection as J1, and then J2 is smell deterrence at the transfer station. Do I have any other additions? Ms. Benson?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to add water rates for commercial accounts.
Under new business?
Sure.
Okay, new business, water rates for commercial. Do I have any other additions, changes? If not, do I have a motion for the adoption of agenda as is? Thank you, Mr. Carl Punko, and Mr. Brown second. Please vote. And it passes 11-0. We move now to open forum. I do not have any pink cards. I do not see anyone in the audience that wants to speak. So we will move on to presentations, and I have several under presentations. Mr. Woody, would you like to give us an update on these, please?
Yeah, very pleased that this afternoon we have 3 awards to give out. We have several people present in the audience from our staff to receive those awards. First off, some general background. The National Association of Clean Water Agencies, or NACWA as we refer to it, they give peak performance awards to facilities based on compliance with their operating permits. Every NPDES permit that's given to every NPDES facility that's given permits have various compliance points they have to meet each and every single day, multiplied by 365 days a year. And the award of peak performance from NACWA comes about based on compliance with those awards. There were only 5 gold awards given in the state of Florida in the calendar year of 2021, and one of those was given to Bayou Marcus here in Escambia County. There were only 4 silver awards given in the state of Florida in the calendar year of 2021, and one of those went to Pensacola Beach Water Reclamation Facility. So present this afternoon, first is on behalf of Bayou Marcus Water Reclamation Facility, Mr. Sonny Bonds. Go and identify yourself, Sonny. The Bayou Marcus Water Reclamation Facility was required to meet 3,584 compliance metrics and no excursions in order to lead to a gold award. This marks the 9th consecutive year receiving an award at that facility, and that facility has received 21 awards in the last 24 years. A great deal of those under Sonny's leadership. Thank you very much, Sonny. Out of the Pensacola Beach Water Reclamation Facility, they were required to meet 4,241 compliance metrics, and they only had 1 excursion, so that led to a silver award for them. This marks the 6th consecutive year winning this award. For the time period of January 1, 2016 through December 31, 2021, that's a 6-year period, this facility was required to meet over 25,000 compliance metrics. It only missed 3 during that 6-year period. 3 out of over 25,000. One was attributable to staff pulling a sample at a wrong location. The other 2 were copper excursions. 13 months ago, staff requested from FDEP to add a chemical precipitant specifically made for copper removal from the facility. That precipitant is currently used at the CWRF. We're still awaiting approval, however, but it is anticipated that approval will be given. But that is pending. On behalf of the Pensacola Beach Water Reclamation Facility, Mr. Steve Rout is present with us here this afternoon. Thank you, Steve. Mr. Chairman, I believe you have a couple.
I do, sir. I have these 2 awards. If you gentlemen would like to come up to the podium and have your picture made, I think we have.
I would ask that Randy and Don join them as well. Randy Sears oversees water reclamation facilities, and they're all a division of Don Palmer's department. And next, the Florida Water and Pollution Control Operators Association is an organization that gives an award once a year to one individual statewide involved with pretreatment. Pretreatment is a requirement that NPDES permit holders have to hold accountable those industries within their jurisdiction for pretreatment requirements. In other words, the removal of certain pollutants at the source before they even enter the collection system. That's most likely attributable to industries and certain commercial endeavors. The Robert E. Heilman Award is conferred on one person who's involved with industrial pretreatment, who has demonstrated excellence of performance and shown dedicated commitment and an innovative approach to the pretreatment program in Florida above and beyond the requirements of the regulations. This year, that one award winner goes to Jared Tillman, pretreatment coordinator for ECUA. By the way, Jared.
Mr. Williams, our vice chair, is going to give this award.
Well, he's coming up. I might mention Jared's only been with us since July of 2018, has done a wonderful job in that role. He oversees non-domestic users of our wastewater system and the implementation of the rules and regulations under Chapter 26 of the ECUA Code.
Madam Chairman, I just want to be clear. There's one in the state of Florida?
One.
Fantastic.
One.
What a great team we have here. I'm so proud to be part of this organization. Congratulations to all of you.
Congratulations, Mr. Tillman. That's a wonderful accomplishment. Absolutely. And thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you. Good job by all. We move now to the approval of the minutes, and that's the meeting August 16th, 2022. Do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Benson, second by Mr. Kirschner. Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, passes 11-0. Didn't pop up on here for some reason.
Not on my screen.
Nobody's screen, okay. And it passes 11-0. We move now to adoption of the general resolutions. I am going to read these off one at a time first. And if anyone would like to pull an item, we'll let Bruce give a brief description of each. If you want to pull the item, we'll pull it. So just let me know as we go through, and then we will vote on it as the general resolution. If not, we'll go through those items that have been pulled. So first, we have adoption of general resolution. I'm sorry, I was cut off on my general resolution GR 22-90. A general resolution authorizing executive director to execute renewal contract with governmentjobs.com, Inc., doing business as NeoGov, to renew subscriptions with an effective date of October 1, 2022. Mr. Woody.
NeoGov is a software that our HR department uses for a whole host of activities for processing staff, candidates, applications, as well as deal with background checks and other tracking during the employment process. We're asking your consideration to renew the existing subscription.
Thank you. Adoption General Resolution number GR 22-97 is a resolution authorizing executive director to extend an executed contract with Roberson Underground Utility LLC for the annual contract of roadway restoration and debris removal, and provide an effective date. Mr. Woody.
Roberson Underground is the low bidder on a contract to do roadway restoration work. Whether it's emergency work that we've done or routine work, we have an outside third party do repairs to asphalt, concrete, make brick patches, repair sidewalks, backfill and compact subgrade, and those types of activities. We're asking for the renewal of, or the execution of a one-year extension to the existing contract at the same unit prices as last year.
Thank you. Number 3 is General Resolution 22-100, a resolution authorizing executive director to execute a contract with Brown Construction of Northwest Florida, Inc. for the Pensacola Beach Wastewater Treatment Plant Miscellaneous Improvements Project. Mr. Woody.
This contract will allow us to execute a contract with Brown Construction Company for work at the Pensacola Beach plant. Pensacola Beach plant actually has two plants. We run both of them simultaneously during the busy season, but during the off-season, we're able to take one offline and operate with just the other, and we take turns making various repairs and doing preventive maintenance work on the one that's off at a particular time. During this off-season, we are going to do repairs, which include lining a 15-inch sewer pipe with cast-in-place pipe, replace an existing manhole, replace a length of 21-inch gravity sewer pipe, and replace two unnecessary manholes. All these were items that were discovered last year when we did similar work, and this will complete some rehabilitation at the front end of the plant.
Thank you. Number 4 is adoption of General Resolution GR 22102, a resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and award of contract to Momar Inc. of Atlanta, Georgia for supplemental carbon and provide an effective date. Mr. Woody.
We're in the chemical process at the Bayou Marcus Water Reclamation Plant is called denitrification, and for that chemical process to occur, we need additional carbon sources. There's not much industry in that particular division, so we supplement the flow with carbon that's purchased from an outside contractor. What's proposed here is the purchase of carbon at the price of $2.96 per gallon, which was the low bid when it was opened in August of 22. We propose that contract with Momar Incorporated of Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you. Number 5 is General Resolution 22104, a resolution to approve the sole source purchase of water meter test bench, the associated equipment and associated computer hardware and software from the Mars Company in Ocala, Florida.
The existing water meter test bench we have has been in service an extremely long time, has reached the useful end of its life. Plus, it requires an awful lot of manual work and manual recording of data. What we're proposing to do is purchase a test bench that we'll use for a large range of sizes of meters. When we either have a new meter or we've rehabilitated and rebuilt an old meter, or if a customer has questioned the accuracy of a meter, we can remove that meter, take it to this test bench, and run various tests with it. This test bench will test up to 10 meters at a time. It also has hardware and software associated with it that records the information into a database, so we have it for future reference with each meter, since each meter has its own serial number. This will be a wonderful enhancement to the services provided by our Regions Division.
Thank you. Item 6 is General Resolution 22105, a resolution authorizing a renewal and extension of the annual electric motor and rewind services agreement with Gulf Coast Electric Motor Services.
As you can imagine, we have a great deal of pumps and other equipment run by motors, and it's important for us to have a contract set up for 24 hours, 7 a day, a week emergency services, as well as for routine preventive maintenance types of repairs. So this contract would propose an extension of a 1-year renewal with company Gulf Coast Electric Motor Services that we've had very good service out of at the same unit price as previous.
7 is adoption of General Resolution GR 22110, resolution authorizing executive director to execute purchase order with Polydyne Inc. for liquid polymer.
Liquid polymer is a chemical addition we add to dewater sludge over at the CWRF. And then over at Bayou Marcus, we also use it to thicken sludge, although we don't process sludge there at that location. We do thicken it prior to putting it in tankers and then hauling it back to the CWRF where it is processed. We use about 440,000 pounds of liquid polymer each year between those two different facilities. The price bid is currently $1.35 through October 31st, and it increases to $1.43 a pound after November 1st. This is a sole source because Liquid polymers are very unique from manufacturer to manufacturer, and the type of material that they are thickening varies from community to community. So we've done extensive bench scale tests of the various providers and determined that the best unit price per unit polymer for our type of sludge is this manufacturer.
Thank you. Item 8 is adoption of general resolution GR 22-111, a resolution authorizing acceptance of bid and award a contract, authorizing the director to execute a contract with Chavers Construction, Inc. for $333,586 to complete the Godwin Lane truck access improvements and authorizing the use of funds from budget established for this project under CT 0001 in the sanitation transfer station budget.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited about this project. It's actually the first phase of several steps toward our transfer station. If you're familiar with the site right now, all the trucks come in off of Pine Forest. They go through the northern driveway where the CNG gas station is, but as soon as they cross that gate, they're driving essentially on a gravel road. Creates dust, it's hard to maintain, various other problems. So as a part of the transfer station project, we are paving all of that area, improving stormwater drainage, adding concrete curb and gutter, and asphalt paving. So that's the scope of this project, and it'll lead to the eventual transfer station that will be constructed over the next 1.5 to 2 years.
Thank you, sir. Item 9 is adoption general resolution GR 22-112. It's a resolution authorizing the renewal and extension of a sole source annual agreement with Envirotech of America, Inc. for the System 1000 grease control system and providing an effective date.
We have over 400 pump stations across our organization. This contract is for adding some supplementary treatment to 27 of those locations, particularly to address grease control. Sometimes that's because they're a location where multiple other stations pump into them, or they may be in a commercial area with restaurants nearby. Grease is a prime source of odors, and these odor control systems have proven to be very effective in reducing odor problems in the immediate area. It is a sole source. Having tried out many other vendors, this has been the best source of control that we've found in the market.
Thank you. Item 10 is general resolution GR 22-113, a resolution authorizing the purchase of replacement geothermal HVAC equipment for the engineering and customer service building, utilizing National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract for the pricing, and it's with Engineered Cooling Services of Northwest Florida for the required equipment only in the amount of $628,815.
This is kind of a staged project to do a major improvement and upgrade and replacement of equipment in the adjacent engineering building, which is the original building built back in 1990. We did an evaluation and studies because we were having some performance problems, and confirmed the good news is that our geothermal field and its piping system is working well and will support all the needs of the building. However, age and use has rendered most of the system in that building in a poor condition and needs to be replaced. The equipment is expensive and certainly takes a lot of time as well, so the design is nearly complete. The purchase of this contract would purchase the equipment needed for the project. Due to the long lead time of almost 52 weeks, we're doing that in advance, and then when the contract comes a little bit closer to, or when the equipment comes closer to turning in, then we'll advertise for the installation services for the equipment. So this is just for purchase of the equipment. Again, in the south building, we've done that through a purchase contract agreement.
Thank you. And our last resolution is GR 22-114, a general resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a sole source purchase order in the amount of $200,000 with Green South Solutions LLC to provide Class B biosolids land application services and provide an effective date.
While we use as many biosolids as we can on a compost program, we certainly produce a lot more than can be absorbed by just that program. So when we have excess biosolids that need to be handled, this contract allows us for disposal of that through a third party. It actually has two rates, $35 a wet ton if Green South is the one that picks it up, or $8 a wet ton if ECUA does the transportation. That is a much, much cheaper alternative than the other, which would be taking it to the landfill at almost $94 per wet ton.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. So now I'm going to ask if anybody would like to hold any of these items for discussion. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Ritz, which items would you like to hold?
One.
One? Okay.
One.
Anybody have any other items they
Well,
want to hold?
let me
Okay.
see. I had clicked on speaker for the ones that I had chosen.
You want to tell me which ones? they-
Well, let us see. One, let's redundancy there. 5. I guess in 10. All right.
Okay, are there any others that would like to be held? Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
You've got another.
Number
Oh, I'm
seven?
sorry,
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Riley.
number 7.
Number 7? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I did too. Number 2, 3, and 6 and 9.
2, 3, 6,
And 9.
and 9. So that leaves 14, 8, and 11. Would someone like to move 4, 8, and 11? Ms. Benson? I'd like to move 4, 8, and 11. Okay. All right, so I have Ms. Benson, Mr. Brown on 4, 8, and 11. Please vote. And it passes 11-0. Okay, we'll go through these items one at a time. Ms. Ritz, you have the floor on number 1.
Thank you. I was wondering if there was any discount possible for this, and I noticed, is there an issue for an expiration? I noticed it was written on August the 3rd, and it is now past September the 3rd, and it had a 30-day expiration noted. So I was wondering if that is going to be kind of forgotten, or why that was written in the contract and yet it might not be needed.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Wood.
any discount, and then the expiration date has passed for the contract.
And I see Kim making her way to the podium. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Kim Scruggs, Director of Human Resources. As far as the expiration, and I didn't realize that it was still printed on here, they did extend that for us, understanding that we wouldn't have it before the board until the month of September. Our original plan was to bring it earlier, and we weren't able to do that. As far as the discount, we did request a discount, and they actually held our renewal, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but they did discount that based on a bundled rate because we have so many modules with them. So we do our applicant tracking, background, it's an integration within our applicant tracking system, as well as our onboarding process for all the paperwork that a new hire does prior to coming on board. And then we also do our Learn, which is like a learning management system, where they provide content for our employees to take training for career progression and career development. And then they provide the module for our employee evaluations, annual evaluations, probationary evaluations. So there is a discount applied, although it's not noted on here, but because we do have multiple modules with them.
Do they have a history of increasing the discount, or does it stay what I call neutral? Or do they backstep? If it's 10 this year, it'll be 9 or less next year? Otherwise, you're a good customer to them, it looks like.
We are. We've actually utilized NeoGov since 2007 with our applicant tracking system was the first module that we implemented here, and then since then we've added various other modules. We have not seen significant increases over the last 3 to 5 years, although we are anticipating that in the coming years we will see more increases. I don't know what those increases might look like, but they actually charge us, on several of these modules, they charge us based on the number of employees that we have active in their system. And so by virtue of us, likely increasing the number of employees, we would see an increase in the cost. I'm not sure what that will be.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. And Mr. Williams.
You said, thank you, Madam Chair. So you say you've been using this since 2007.
Yes, sir.
How was it done before that?
I wasn't here in 2007,
Okay.
but my understanding is it was a paper manual process,
Okay,
which I don't even think would be possible today.
okay. So you have access to a database that will let you go back and review files from the beginning of the hiring process of an employee up to now?
So we would not be able to go back to day one electronically and review files. The retention on our applications doesn't last that long. And so what we do is within the system, there's a 3-year retention policy. And those applications that come in, those requisitions, everything's kind of tied to a requisition, which is a vacancy. Those, as they expire, NeoGov systematically purges those records. Now, what we do have for active employees, like the people that we have selected through a selection process, is we preserve those in hard copy form as a part of their personnel record.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, good questions. Thank you very much. We move now to item 2, and let me see who my speakers are. I believe, Mr. Williams, you held item 2?
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is,
It's an extension of the contract with Roberson for the underground utility
right,
for roadway
right.
restoration.
I think this is a family-owned business, and I just wanted to know what's their record as it relates to personnel in terms of diversity and equity. I didn't see any information on that.
It's not a specific requirement in our bid process, so I don't have that information. I wouldn't be able to provide that to you.
It's not a requirement?
No, it's not a specific requirement.
Under no form? I mean, maybe not by that name, but are those terms, but under no form?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
No, I don't think you
Is
did.
that-
I was just wanting to know if the personnel hired by Robertson Underground Utilities had a diverse workforce, or if they do not, because it's a family-owned business. So is it all family who operate the business versus are there hires that are outside of the family?
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that it was a family-owned business myself, and even if I had known that, it's not a requirement that businesses provide that information as a part of their bid packages, so that we're not aware of.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Item 3 is the general resolution authorizing executive Director to execute the contract with Brown Construction of Northwest Florida for the Pensacola Beach wastewater treatment plant miscellaneous improvement project. And
Madam Chairman, can I make a point of order? It's a
yes,
question.
sir.
It's like, should we be voting on these individually? Like when somebody pulls one, that might mean that they have some sort of problem with it. So are we gonna vote on them individually as we go? Or are we gonna go to the end and then,
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
I think that would
Okay,
probably be less cumbersome because I'd hate to see us get to the end and
right, okay.
expect everybody to vote yes when some people may not be voting, then have to redo it all again.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So let's vote on let's go back and vote on number one. We'll do them one at a time. I liked when we used to do them one at a time anyway. One is moved by Mr. Gaines and second by Mr. Kirschner. Please vote. And it passes 11-0. Item 2, if no more questions, we will vote on that one. And it is moved by Mr. Kirschner and second by Ms. Ritz. Please vote. Thank you, Dale, for pointing that out. Everybody got a green ball or red ball?
Yeah, I'm clicking it, nothing's happening.
It's ornery.
Just waiting.
Yep. You're good. Gotta love technology. Oh, and it passes 10-1. 10-1. And we move now to item 3, GR 22-100. This is the contract with Brown Construction of Northwest Florida for Pensacola Beach wastewater treatment. And my speakers are Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a similar question. I know Brown Construction is also a family-owned business. At least the president and the vice president are family. And since there's no record of it, no website, no Facebook page, and the contract is over $500,000, I think somehow it would be good information to know whether this is all this public money is going to this individual family versus being utilized in more of a taxpayer pleasing way. So I don't know how we can resolve that, but I think that's a critical issue for me, and I would like to know some information as to is it just enriching the individual family versus are they working for the good of those within this community who supply the money to ECUA?
I need to correct or correct, actually would be a better term. I was wrong when I answered your question earlier. While we don't have a diversity requirement in our bid process, the bidders are required to submit diversity information on their company. So I was incorrect when I answered you before. I don't have that information available. I'd be more than happy to check it out on this one and the prior one you asked about and provide you that information, but I don't have it right here.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
questions?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
speak on that?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I don't know how to
That's okay.
click on it, something. So I think what Mr. Williams is referring to is a bigger philosophical question than these individual items. So what we may need to have a discussion of and legal research into and stuff is, like, I know we can't have a local vendor preference. It's against the law, you know, we can't do that. I don't know if there's a way to have a diverse workforce preference or anything. You know, if we get one bid that says we'll do the job for 500,000 and we get another one that says we'll do the job for 2 million, but we're diverse, I mean, what do we do then? What are we obligated to do? What do we think is right? So it might be a discussion that we have as a committee or as a board in great detail, you know, and see, you know, what parameters we might look at. But I don't know what the answers to those questions are. But each individual item, I'm sure, has been put out competitively, you know, for the most part, and everybody's had an opportunity to bid on them. And, you know, and you may get some companies that are all minority or mainly all minority. Are they diverse? You know, I don't know. I mean, those are large philosophical questions we have to examine, but it'd probably be something that we need to look at agenda as a committee and ask, you know, what the law is on this, what our policies are, and what do we think they should be.
Thank you, Mr. Punico.
Madam Chairwoman.
Go ahead. Yeah, I have someone in front of you.
Yeah, I have a question. Do we have contracts under GSA, General Services Administration? I know when I was procurement manager at Gulf Power, if we had contracts with GSA, you had to have a certain percentage of your vendors be minority or female owned. Not necessarily their employee workforce, but the owners, the executive officers, whatever.
And subcontractors as well. I think the distinction you're making there is where the fund sources. If it's, like, say, if we receive a federal grant and there are federal funds, then there's a higher level and standard of reporting, and even for authorization of the grant in the first place. They have to meet certain goals based on diversity population of the area where the services are being rendered. That doesn't apply for state funds and local funds, but it does certainly with federal.
Correct. But what we did was, and this is something for you all, but we came up with our own supplier diversity goals, kind of using that as a baseline. But that's a bigger discussion than what I can bring in. But yeah.
Thank you. I think that ties in exactly what Dale was saying. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So this is the third meeting when we're looking at contracts, whether extending them or renewing them, or a new contract where the question of diversity has come up. The second time that we discussed it, I think we actually voted to have some type of verbiage put in the contract to reflect that we needed that information from them. I mean, is there a way to make that a standard for us across the board, basically in line with what Dale was saying? What's our legal authority, or what are we required to do, so that we don't do this each time? If it's set in stone, when we start looking at a contract initially, then we won't revisit this each time, because we'll know that it's a company that has a diverse workforce, or at least the diversity is at the level of the people who own the business.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Yeah, if I can
Williams.
respond. It seemed that there would be two issues there. The ability for us to provide you diversity information on projects that are bid, as opposed to sole source or other types of procurement. That information that's required to be submitted, we can provide so that you're aware of it while you're doing the review of the particular resolution in question. But the other component of whether the board members or CSE members would make recommendations for or against recommendation for award based on those numbers, that would be a policy issue that you have to discuss, and we certainly need to have the legal input on.
So it sounds like, I think staff is hearing that we would like to in the future, go through this with legal and policy and discuss our policy on it, on diversity.
Yes, ma'am. because
Thank you, sir.
We continue to do this each time.
Yes, sir. Are there any other questions on this item? Item 3. If not, please vote. Or I need a motion, sorry. There it comes. And it's moved by Mr. Kirschner and second by Mr. Prunico. Please vote. And it passes 10 to 1. Move now to item 5, adoption of General Resolution 22-104, a resolution to approve the sole source purchase of water meter test bench, associated equipment, and associated computer hardware and software from the Mars Company in Ocala, Florida, and provide an effective date. And I have one speaker, no speaker.
Come on up.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought it was you.
So the question is, what's the useful life of the old versus the new water meter test bench? It talks about the useful life. What is the useful life? How many years would that be?
Brian Reed's our Director of Regional Services, and there's two components here. There's the hardware, and then there's this new equipment will have software associated with it as well.
Thank you, sir.
The old test bench, I believe, may have come over from the city back in the 80s. So it's had a long life, but it's there's no automation, none of the current technology is used with that one. The new one, it's very much automated. It'll run a lot of the tests. A technician will set it up, put the meters in place, tell it to run, come back in a few hours, the tests are done. He doesn't have to sit there and monitor it. It's nothing subjective like looking at a sight glass and taking a reading off of it, which is what we do now. It'll all be the weight of the water. We know what the volume of the water that goes through the meter is, and it's all set up to follow the American Water Works Association's guidelines. They'll record all that information, and once a year the company, Mars, will come into town. They'll do all the preventative maintenance on the meter test bench. They'll upgrade the software, and one of the critical things with them is that they will come in and certify it as a third party. So if a customer ever had a question about, hey, is my meter reading accurately, and we can say with confidence that we tested it on this bench, a third party came in and tested it, and they certified it, and it gives us the confidence to tell the customer that. And I think it's going to be great for the accuracy of our meters and the satisfaction of our customers.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Ritz.
Thank you. I'm thinking of my 5-ton heating and cooling system that sits on top of our home, and I was able to purchase a 10-year warranty. And I was looking at the massive languaging on this one, and it had a 1-year warranty, and I got rather, like, how can I buy 10 and ECUA is only going to be offered 1 year for the testing equipment? And by the way, it was good to know it's been in service for quite a while. But that was one question I had. Secondly, since the equipment will require ECUA to put in what I call the 120 volt single phase and the 480 volt three-phase service. I wonder has that already been in place, or are they going to have to hire an electrician, a certified electrician, to do that? And lastly, will there be a need for fewer employees based on the speed and accuracy of the new water testing facility?
I don't think that we'll be able to reduce the number of employees. You know, every year we get more and more customers, more and more meters that need to be tested. We're kind of shorthanded right now as it is, but it will allow the employees that we have to be more efficient in what they do, and they'll be able to do more testing and more maintenance, and you know, the less time tied up with the tests and more time doing other things. So we're looking at doing some renovations to the meter shop. Probably will include some electrical upgrades, but that'll be part of that whole the whole renovation project.
Well, is that included in the price of $275,000,
No.
or will this be an additional price?
That's a separate project.
And the other issue is the warranty.
The warranty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they you know, that's on certain components that are warranted for a year, but they will be coming in. Some components will have longer warranties from the manufacturer, and they'll be coming in, the Mars company, once a year and doing all the preventative maintenance and changing out any parts that need to be replaced, and basically keeping it in good working order.
I have one more question that just popped into my mind. Are you asking that components be from the United States rather than overseas from a communist country?
Well, the majority of this is made in Ocala. Now, I can't speak for every component, but I've been to the Mars Company's fabrication shop down in Ocala, Florida, and the majority of the test bench and the equipment is manufactured right there. You know, now as far as every little component, I haven't done that level of detail of research. But,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
No further questions? And do I have a motion to get this one? Ms. Benson, and second by Mr. Kirschner. Please vote. And it passes 11-0. We move now to item 6, adoption of General Resolution GR 22-105, and authorizing the renewal and extension of an annual electric motor and rewind service agreement with Gulf Coast Electric Motor Service and providing an effective date for that agreement. Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for
Yes, sir.
the record, over the past 3 years that we had the contract, how many times have we had to use it? Or use the services of the company?
We spent on average a little over $200,000 a year. We're forecasting an expenditure of approximately $225,000 in the next fiscal year.
In terms of services provided, or the contract cost?
That's actual services and equipment provided.
Okay. So,
Combination of the two.
Okay. So we use it quite a bit. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Pinnacle.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a plug for Gulf Coast Electric Motor Service. They were our go-to at Chris Plant, Smith Plant, and they are a minority-owned business. And
Very good.
yeah,
very,
you're good to
very
have them.
dependable. Very dependable.
Thank you. And you just click on the item itself that we're on, right there. And then over here, this little request to speak button. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Do I have a motion on item number 8? I'm sorry, item number 6. And it's moved by Ms. Benson and second by Mr. Punico, and please vote.
Refresh. The magic refresh button. Okay, thank you.
And it passes 11-0. Move now to item number 7. Adoption of General Resolution 22-110, a resolution authorizing executive director to execute purchase order with Polydyne Inc. for the liquid polymer. And we have speakers. I have no speakers noted, but it was held.
Yeah, I think, Madam Chair, I think I held it, but
Okay.
I kind of got some clarity as Mr. Woody was going over it, talking about particular use for our sludge.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I don't have any more
Perfect.
questions.
Thank you. Ms. Kramati.
Yes, ma'am. I was wanting to know a little bit more about that polymer chemical additive, the purpose of that test, and how often are they administered?
Yeah, Randy, why don't you add some more details, if that's okay?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we grow bacteria inside of our treatment processes. It's usually somewhere about a 0.5% solids. It's really low in solids. It's mostly water. In order to get that water, we add this polymer to it, and it basically separates the solids from the water. That's how it works. The water is then recycled back to the treatment process. The biosolids are then moved to our fertilizer processes. How often are we using it? CWRF is 24/7, 365 days, somewhere about 12 to 14 gallons a minute. So it adds up over time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Carmona, was she finished?
You done, Ms.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is another question. I was looking it up. They were talking about there was a natural coal porcelain clay that could be used for that same process. Have you heard about that?
So when looking at coagulating chemicals and things to that nature, you actually have to do field trials in order to make them work, because every single one is made differently. We have offered to many, many different manufacturers to come in and say, hey, let's go ahead and try your product on a short-term basis to see how it works, how it would compare long-term. 2 years ago, we had one company who said, yes, we think we can beat this. They came in, they did a 6-week trial, and they weren't even close. So the way that we do this pricing is actually we piggyback off of Hillsborough County's contract. Hillsborough County is much larger than us, and therefore they get a much better rate. So it's very hard for any organization other than Polydyne to actually match cost when it comes to usage and final cost at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate that. Good question. If I have no further questions, do I have a motion to get number 7 on the, thank you, Mr. Gaines and Mr. Punico. Please vote. Oh, sorry. That was up there, Gaines and Punico, and it changed to Benson. Punico. Yes, you were. I mean, she just knocked you right out, Mr. Gaines. I mean, it was just, you know. She's like Blake Shelton. She's got some magic thing over there. Okay, we move now to, and it passes 11-0, sorry. Move now to item 9, adoption of general resolution 22-112, a resolution authorizing renewal and extension of sole source annual agreement with Envirotech of America for the System 1000 grease control system and provide effective date. And let's see, do we have speakers? Ms. Cromartie. Oh, sorry. Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I should know this. Next time I won't ask. How many lift stations do we have?
400. I'm a guess.
Plus or minus?
400. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. 'Cause I know the number has been like 397, and some of those aren't in service, so plus or minus. Okay, fine. And then, the big question is, are we at all concerned about sole source suppliers?
Good question.
Can I reply?
Yes, sir.
Yes, competition in the marketplace is what helps keep price down. So we do not do sole source lightly. In our procurement process has quite a few forms we have to fill out that documents why they are a sole source or not, both to allow us to be sure we're in compliance with our own procurement code, and to allow us to respond appropriately to any challenges we might have from other vendors, that they're also competitors in that particular space. And there's different reasons why people are sole source, and some of those we've discussed today.
Okay. I mean.
Thank you. It's a great question. You don't want sole source.
No, you don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that question. Any further questions? If not, do I have a motion? Ms. Ritz and Mr. Punico, please vote. And it passes 11-0. Whoop, sorry, I got ahead of it. Because what? Oh, yeah. Like we did. Oh, that's funny. And it passes 10-0.
That one extra vote you needed, right?
Thank you. Hit my button.
Yeah.
We move now to item 10, adoption of general resolution GR 22-113, a resolution authorizing purchase of replacement geothermal HVAC equipment for the engineering and customer service building utilizing National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance contract pricing with Engineered Cooling Services of Northwest Florida for the required equipment only in the amount of $628,815. And our first question is Ms. Ritz.
I wondered how much estimation has been put into the installing of this equipment. Approximately a third.
Mr. Piscopo is making his way to the dais, to the podium.
Jerry's project manager on this project.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So we estimate the installation of this equipment would be in the 1.5 to 1.7 million dollar range or higher, depending on the market as things continue to go up.
Is there any way to speed up the manufacture so it doesn't take 52 weeks?
No. 52 weeks is expedited. Yeah. And I'm kind of enjoying it because the engineering department is sweating. So.
Well, I was wondering what's going to happen to the equipment that's in place now.
Well, and that's the reason why we opted to go through the National Cooperative, and this is to answer another question earlier about why sometimes we sole source, is to get the correct equipment without a bid, because the equipment that's over there isn't for geothermal. They're water source heat units, they're not geothermal units. So they don't have as high efficiency as a geothermal unit would. So
The ground does great wonders, doesn't it?
It does, when it works, yeah. So,
Well, thank you.
yes, ma'am. So we're trying to resurrect the geothermal field, so.
Thank you for coming up, Mr. Piscopo. Do we have any further questions? If not, please vote. Oh, wait, I need a motion. And let's see, Mr. Gaines, beat her this time, and Ms. Benson.
We'll see how long that holds up, right?
Held up. Please vote. And it passes 11-0. Thank you. We move now to the informational report on get over there. At the very end here. Page 207. 208. Do you have any questions? If not,
Yes,
yes,
may I?
Yes,
Is it
ma'am.
appropriate to make a comment?
yes, ma'am, Ms. Ritz.
Okay, I'm very partial to water, having lived in certain places in my childhood that water was deemed very precious. Okay. I noticed in Mississippi, can I go off topic? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
go for it.
I noticed that Mississippi and Jackson is having quite a dilemma. And all I could think about was how wonderful this water department is that we have here, plus the overseers and the technicians. And I thought, I want to put in a plug for them. And also I want to put in a plug for the board and the CAC who vote monies to renew, to, I call it energize, the systems of piping. And I just want to say hooray, hooray, because when I turn on that faucet, no matter what level I'm on in my house, home, or in the yard, the water looks clean and tastes good. So hooray for our ECUA water department, not shortchanging any of the others, but I grew up with an appreciation of water. In fact, I'll tell you a little funny story. Do I have a moment? Okay, thank you. Okay. In my home, there is a pitcher, Pitcher, and into this pitcher goes water that has not been drunk or ice cubes that somehow overflowed the cup. It goes in there. We're not going to waste water or cubes. And that water becomes water for the plants in the yard and in the home. So, if anybody wants a hint about what to do with their excess water in a glass that they're not going to finish drinking, get yourself a pitcher and pour it in there. Yeah, hooray for the water. And lastly, will she ever end? Yes. I'm concerned that companies might come in and petition the state to drill or utilize our aquifers. And I'm hoping that ECUA's governmental person will not allow this to happen, that they will champion for leaving our aquifers alone. I'm finished. Thank you.
From your lips to God's ears. I like your statements always. You make some really good statements. I appreciate them. We do take water for granted sometimes, and we shouldn't. We move now to unfinished business. Mr. Woody is going to tell us about a staged recycle reopen.
As you know, the Materials Recycling Facility, or MRF for short, has been closed for an extended period of time. The reason for its downtime has been waiting on two very important belts that are used at the very front of the machine, an incline belt as well as the metering belt, one of which is all metal. The other one is a combination of materials. After much delay and wait, they finally did arrive last Thursday, and the incline belt is already installed. The metering belt either is close to installed or is installed. Is this morning, okay. So final testing adjustments are going on. The previously advertised date of September 26th, that's this coming Monday, is our opening date again at the MRF. It is going to be staged. The first 3 days of the week, we'll be receiving recycling streams from our outside partners, City of Foley, Okaloosa County, some of those folks who, quite frankly, have the cleanest recycling waste streams, those in the 15 to 20% range of contamination. And by volume, that's only about 30% of our overall volume. We have done a tremendous amount of maintenance on this overall equipment during the time that it's been down. We've replaced somewhere between 13 and 15 other belts on machine, bearings, rollers, replaced hydraulics, updated gearboxes, rebuilt the baler, spent over $350,000 in other maintenance activities. So for the first 3 days, we'd like to have a relatively clean waste stream coming in so we can make final tension adjustments on belts under a somewhat smaller load and cleaner load. And then we'll begin receiving recycling waste streams from ourselves, ECUA collected, or City of Pensacola collected, starting that Thursday of next week, which would be the 29th. So we are back in service starting the 26th. We're doing a staged reopening, but I'm pleased to announce we've finally gotten there. I also want to particularly recognize all the work of Jerry Piscopo's I&E and maintenance staff, who have really been godsend to try to get an awful lot of additional work done while this was down, and to help better track and monitor going forward our preventive maintenance program at the MRF.
Thank you, sir. We move now to...
I have a request to speak.
Yeah, Ms. Benson, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, this is good news indeed that we're doing that. I think we've all been very concerned that this process has been interrupted for so long, and I know that our staff has worked hard. But this is, how many months has this gone on? Is it close to 6 months? That's how it feels to me.
June 15th was the date that we lost
Okay,
the
so
two.
not quite that.
Yeah.
So do we have, I mean, there aren't that many recyclers, but do we have any idea of the life expectancy of all of these critical parts? And do we have a way to get ahead of the curve so that we don't encounter these kinds of supplier delays?
Yeah. Right at the tail end of my remarks, I made mention that we're trying to automate and better track preventive maintenance and larger capital needs, identify mission-critical elements, and try to pre-stock those when it's practical.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to pre-stock a $100,000 belt necessarily, but certainly bearings and rollers and key things that are in common gearboxes, so we can do quick swap outs of those and then continue running while we then try to to restock the one that was pulled off the shelf. We have a wonderful software system called Infor that's used in the rest of our enterprise functions, water and wastewater, that has allowed those infrastructures to do so well, utilizing that process. That has not been used in the past with the MRF, but we are going to do that going forward.
Thank you. May I continue? And I am an absolutely committed recycler, and it includes like my cloth bags at the grocery store. If I suddenly discover in my trunk that I don't have any cloth bags, I fill my cart and I take the individual items to my trunk and then go home and get the cloth bags. That's how committed I am. But I have found myself getting lazy because I know that everything's being dumped into the landfill. And as conscious as I am of these things, I'm sure that that's happening with other people. Do we have a massive public education campaign ready to go to remind people that it's time to, and I know we said keep on separating, but I think it's important to remind people and maybe take an opportunity to celebrate all of our successes as a community in recycling, the numbers that we have and so forth. I just think it's important that we do this.
Yeah, in response, I would say it's actually probably a 2, maybe even a 3-phase need there. In the short term, will be our public announcement that we're resuming collection. In the midterm, we need to address the fact that we have a contamination problem that is much higher in our local community than it is in some of our partner communities around us. Some of that is the nature of how they collect their recyclables. Some of them have source separated, and others have drop-off collections, so it's easier to keep those clean. But that and long-term, we do need to up our game in public education and even enforcement, for that matter. We do have some policies that say that if a customer is not using the recycling can for what it's intended to use, that we can provide them a couple warnings, and if they continue to abuse that particular container by contaminating it or using it strictly as trash can, that we can take that can away. I would say that recycling is environmentally important, and it's a good diversion from our landfill. However, if for whatever reason, as a customer, you don't support recycling or don't want to use recycling, I would advocate you call us and let's get rid of the can, because it defeats the quality and efficiency of our operation, costs us more money, and is a big drag on the overall cost and efficiency of the program if it isn't kept clean. Our contamination rates from City of Pensacola and from ourselves are in the mid to high 40s percent-wise contaminated with trash, whereas our best customers, ideally, it's down in the 15 to 20% range.
Thank you. Anytime board members get a chance to get out there and speak about it, get out there and speak about it to big groups. I mean, you got a Rotary group, you got your Council of Realtors, you got the other different groups. Preach it. Talk about it. Ms. Ritz.
Thank you. Several months ago, Tom Common used to serve on the CAC, and he had brought a sheet defining the various numbers. Well, I resurrected it after I had someone bring in a chair into my home. And we got to talking about recycling because they had to march by my kitchen, which is full of bags of recycling waiting to be put into the process once the MRF gets rolling again. So I asked him, I said, well, where are you from? And he said, Philadelphia. And he said, there we had a sticker on the recycling can that told us exactly what numbers we should be putting into recycling. And I thought, I'll share that with the next CAC meeting. So for what it's worth, had this ever been considered to have a sticker that would be placed on recycling containers that would delineate what numbers should be placed in the container?
Yes, actually, we do have stickers, and we have used them in past. They've not been used much in the last few years. I think the last batch that we purchased really didn't have a suitable quality of adhesive, and they didn't stay on very long. But that probably would be helpful in some areas. I've had some requests most recently for that to be placed on cans, in particular out on the beach, where we have a lot of folks from out of town who are less familiar with our programs.
Do we still have the magnets?
Yes, in fact, those are extremely popular. The sticker that I was describing is essentially the same logo and information that's on the magnet.
So we do have magnets for the refrigerator.
There may even be some samples of those on the table in the back of the room.
The plastic numbers? I believe they're on the plastic numbers are on the magnets, right?
I don't remember if we itemize which ones are more versus less recyclable. 2s and 5s versus 7s and 8s and 9s.
Maybe we can make sure our magnets are up to date. I know that I have one customer that everybody that buys a new house, they give them a bag, an ECUA bag, and it has in it a magnet, a fog jug, and a recycle bag, as well as a how to get in touch with ECUA for certain issues and what have you. And that's really nice. I mean, and she tells me that new home buyers love it because it gives them all the information of who to call to set up any kind of service or what have you. So if you get a chance to talk it up to any agents that you know that do closings, please talk it up, because I think it's a great thing to do. And we talked about it. Mr. Roberts used to talk about it every year at the Association of Realtors, so I really appreciate that. We still give out quite a few of those, I think. Any way we can get that message out is great. We move now, if that's the last speaker, we move now to new business, and we have J1 Auto Selection, Mr. Woody.
This is a message mainly for our board members, but I wanted to take this opportunity to state it, and then I'll probably mention it again next week. This last year, the Florida legislature made amendments to Section 218.391 of the Florida statutes regarding the selection process for auditors. If you're a public entity, city, county, special district, independent special district, which is what ECUA is, an independent special district, the auditor selection process starting this next year has to change. Specifically, they have to have a selection committee that's appointed in part by the board, and one member of that auditor selection committee must be a member of the governing body of the entity being specified, who shall serve as the chair of that committee. Committee size generally being from 3 to 5 members. The board coming up soon will need to elect a member out of the ECUA board to serve as a committee chair on that selection committee, and must determine the process for electing remaining members of the committee. There also needs to be at least one additional committee member who has a background or work experience related to finance. At your last board report, I included a fairly detailed memorandum from Justin Smith, our Director of Finance, that details this entire process and gives you a copy of the actual legislation if you're interested in that amount of detail. What we'll be asking of the board in the short term, the entire selection committee will run through next March of 23, but in the short term, here in September, we've provided you some information about why it's changing and some steps we'll need to go through. At your October meeting, the board will need to choose a committee size, be that 3, 4, 5 members of your committee, and we'll have to select from amongst yourselves a board member who will be a committee chair to be on that committee. We'll also need some feedback about how you want to go through the nomination process for the other remaining members and what date in December you'd like to have your first meeting. Armed with that information, then staff will be able to come back in November with a resolution that will formally establish the auditor selection committee and some of that criteria. So if you haven't had a chance to read it yet, please find that memorandum. If you have any questions, please give me a call. And Justin or I, either one, will be happy to talk to you about it in more detail. Thank you.
I did have one question. Can the members of the committee be members of the CAC?
Technically, that answer is yes. It will add an additional level of complication if you have another board member or CAC member being on that committee.
Gotcha.
In that, for sunshine reasons, every one of those will have to be advertised a certain amount of length of time in advance, and that complicates the process. Not that it can't be done, but that might be worth considering if you want to add that additional layer of responsibility and scrutiny.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that answer. We had smell deterrents. I had a couple of calls recently about the smell at the Godwin Street facility. And I'm not sure if that is because I told them, and I talked to Bruce, and I think this is because our garbage trucks cannot get to the landfill in time and are sitting there overnight with garbage in them. So the transfer station will alleviate that, but in the meantime, we are a ways from that transfer station being done. Are there any things that we can do to deter that smell in that area? So just wanted to get that on the radar. And Bruce and I talked about some solutions, but that we've talked about in the past, but just wanted to get that on everybody's radar. And the last thing on new business is water rates, commercial accounts. Ms. Benson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had a call, and I think others probably had a call. There's some concern by residents of Pensacola Beach about all of the vacation rentals by owners and so forth, where the structures are kind of the size and occupancy of a hotel, but they are in single-family residential areas. And the legislature has precluded local governments from doing much to inhibit this. And it causes all kinds of problems in neighborhoods. But and apparently there's a meeting tomorrow at the Santa Rosa Island Authority with Commissioner Bender to address some of these issues, and he has a proposal, and I don't know what it is. But the person who called me said that ECUA might be able to be a partner if we treat these buildings as commercial accounts. And I guess I don't know if we have the capacity to do that. I think our accounts are based on the size of the meter. But I just thought I would bring it forward since this is something that people are looking to us to do. And perhaps Mr. Woody can respond.
There's several things at play here. First and foremost is the determination of a property based on its zoning.
Right.
And that's controlled by the county of Escambia, and that's that's an issue that we don't have any action on. A second would be based on its use, Also very closely tied to planning and zoning related issues, although the question here has to do with overnight stays, so it's essentially a residential use. But if it's owned separately and used for commercial purposes, commercial gain, I think that's the argument that's being made. Typically, our issues have to do with meter size, however, and the judgment of what applies, what the fees are, backflow prevention requirements, et cetera, are largely based on meter size. Certainly, we would follow the lead of whatever the county would deem regarding zoning, but on meter size, I'll talk with staff and see if there's any, what discretion we do or don't have based on that.
I mean, many of these buildings have like 25 bedrooms. I mean, they're mammoth, and they're not paying bed taxes. They're competing with the hotels, and you have lots of people piled into these places. It's a problem with garbage too, because they have to have, most of them need a commercial roll-off container, but many of them have lots and lots of ECUA cans, and it is primarily a problem for the hotels. These people are competing with the hotels, but on an uneven playing field. But it does cause some problems to the neighborhoods where there are single-family residences, because what you do is, depending on the season, you get a whole fraternity there, and they don't really care about the quality of the neighborhood, and so it is a problem in many beach communities, and we have limited ability to deal with them. And this person said, can ECUA be a player in this? And I think you've kind of answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we all got that phone call. I answered it too, and it was it's interesting to follow that along. The question they were asking me was about the backflow preventer and the need for a backflow preventer on those houses. So I think Bruce is going to follow that along with DEP as well. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Now we move to committee communications. And I just would like to say, this board is kind of like a little family, and I'm a big believer in prayer, so I'd like to ask for your prayer for Ms. Benson and myself as we deal with aging parents. Prayer is very helpful. Thank you. And if we have no open forum, I have no pink slips, so we are adjourned.